I got to paint a dog. It's gonna be a cute dog. The dog's name is Romeo, and he's gonna live right down here. It's fully grayscale, and all these planets are gonna be a little smaller, just to make it a bit more realistic. Some black on this guy, white over that. Set it on fire, because why not? I'm gonna use a sponge here to create a little bit of texture. A little white shine, and a little black for a shadow. Black here, and some tippy taps. Highlight, shadow, black, white, high five, and skidoosh. Dry this off real quick. Heavens have opened. Again. Okay, now we can cover these guys up with lids and caps and stuff. We can move on. Now we can cover the whole top section in black, but we're going to make sure that we cut into the edges of these stencils here. I'm going to build some stealth grey into that as well to make the sky kind of fade out. And a little of this roof grey too. The thing about monochrome skies is they're not as interesting as when you throw a bunch of colour down, but there's a few things you can do to start making it look interesting. I can shoot a couple of these guys to give them a bit of life. Fold this piece of card up, trim it down a little, skadoosh and skadoosh. If I take these guys all off, that is fancy. There's a lot going on with the shine here, but I think we can modify this. Skadoosh and skadoosh. See? It looks like it's supposed to be there now. Flick a little more white across here. Now the owner of this dog is asking me to paint Mountain Romeo, so let's try that. Okay, so it kind of goes up like this. It has more of a curvy kind of top rather than a pointy one. And then it has like a couple random other pointy little peaks as it comes down. Okay, we're gonna roll with that and see how we get on. Okay, you can see the light sources are coming from this way, so I'm gonna start by adding some white to this black. Just mix that up till we get a nice gray. Dib on that. I'm just gonna start running this down the dark side of the mountain, just all the way down. You want to keep some of the black because that's what gives it more depth. Same for these smaller peaks too. Honestly, I think that on its own looks sick, but we're going to add a light side too. This white to start with is going to mix with the black and make like a lighter grey, but that's good. We want that. And the reason we want that is so we can hit it with the white again at the peaks to make it even snowier. Okay, I think Bob Ross would be proud of that. We're just using some white to layer this up a bit because that makes it disappear into the background, which is exactly what we want. I put a bit too much here, so I'm going to shoot this up that way to make it look like something interesting's happening. I'm getting a bit conscious of where Romeo is going to be sat, but I think he's going to be good. Go a bit harder on the white here. I need to add some like rocky areas to the foreground here, so let's do that. I'm going to tear up this piece of card here into some random kind of rocky looking shapes. Now using that as a stencil, I'm going to lay that down here and just hit that with some black first. Now hitting it from this side, I'm going to highlight the tops of them with some light grey. A couple little smidgens of white. Using a palette knife, I'm just going to highlight the tops of these a little. Just send a few little extra bits of texture through here. A little white in front of those. I'm going to take the cheapest, basically worst paint I have, and I want some of that here and some up here too. And some really cheap white over the top of that. The reason I want this is because if you take some magazine paper, this paint is so cheap and nasty that it will texture really easily. Because cheap paint is pliable, you just get so much out of it. Now using some Mystic Black, I want to create some darker crevices. So one down here, and one here. I'm just going to notch out a little divot in this guy. You'll see why in a second. Back in with the cheap black right here. A little bit of roof grey. Some white up the middle. We'll give that a little rub. See if we can create some water here. A little more white. Now I've got this flat piece of card to scoop up some of this white. We're going to use that to create our waterfalls. Spare piece of card, curve it up, aim it down at the waterfall, shoot the card, and that gives you your like landing spray. I know for a hard fact that is not the official word for it, so if you know what it is, please tell me. I have a ton of spare white here, so I'm just using that to make the water look a bit more interesting. Bit of white mist here will separate the next part of the foreground. I think we'll do some trees here, so I need some black for that. You're going to think this is stupidly simple, but it is really effective. So I'm just starting by painting some trunks up here like that. Now I've folded up some kitchen roll into a square, and I'm just going to tear the corner of that so it's like circular, like this. The key here is speed, so I'm dunking it in there. I'm going to start at the top, starting thin like this, and I'm eventually just going to fan it out towards the bottom. You see? Simple as that. Now just flicking a brush, I can fill some of these gaps. A little white mist, and same again. So I'm just going to mist out this final area here, which gives me the perfect spot to squiggle mad diggle. Now we have the portrait of the dog itself. Let's do this. Now you're probably thinking, how's he going to spray paint a whole dog in this tiny little space? Well, I have designed a multi-layered stencil for this. I've basically taken the picture of Romeo and I've split him down into different layers via the colour values, and I've also made it monochrome so that it will look nice and in keeping with the rest of the piece. Okay, let's freaking do this. Last bit of mist to the foreground here to blend it all in. And Boom. I think Romeo's a pretty handsome chap. What do you think?